Brought to you by...
Within the vast expanse of the snowy northern mountains rests the remnants of a once frequented lodge. Its structure still stands, alone and isolated from the rest of the world, at the end of an off-limits mountain pass. Its doors and windows have been shuttered for years, its prosperity almost lost to time. In the years since its closing, something evil has taken residence within the walls of the lodge, quietly watching and waiting to lure in all those who wander the road less traveled. Happy New Year, friends. Welcome back to ETF. I believe this is the first time that we've done a New Year's themed video on the channel. So I thought it might be fun to talk about a film that I have only seen a few cover here on YouTube. As many of you know by now from watching this channel and channels like mine, there's a whole world of horror out there that most tend to overlook, and some who are left just forgotten to time. This is the arena of horror that I like to spend most of my time in, finding the gems that have been passed over and buried by countless studio flops throughout the years. So let's dig through the snow and uncover the Ghostkeeper. Shot on location on Lake Louise at the Banff National Park in Alberta, Canada, this film follows three friends on a New Year's Eve snowmobiling excursion who find themselves stranded at the abandoned lodge where the elderly female innkeeper is concealing a sinister secret. The plot of this film might sound very familiar if you're a gamer who tends to frequent the horror-related titles that have been surfacing in recent years. It weaves a similar tale to that of the popular Until Dawn, and it honestly wouldn't surprise me in the slightest to learn that Larry Fessenden had taken inspiration from a film like this when crafting the narrative. At the start of this film, the stage is set as we are introduced to the snowy mountain peaks that nestle the isolated lodge in which we will be spending the duration of this runtime. Immediately, I was brought back into another time with this one, as the film's transfer here is very poor, maintaining all the cracks, pops, distortions, and imperfections of the original negatives, the preservation of which was obviously not a huge priority to whomever was storing it. I get a vibe from this film that reminds me very much of Kubrick's The Shining. It isolates a small group of people to a remote, icy tundra and forces them to face something unimaginable. It does a nice job of slowly building the quiet atmosphere of the isolation that these characters have wandered into, off the beaten path, far from civilization. The beauty of this setting is captured gorgeously throughout, showcasing the sprawling landscape of the vast terrain that separates our characters from society. Upon entering the lodge, there is an eeriness to the place. The chairs are all lined up by the windows, staring out into the vast white landscape, almost as if the ghosts of this place are waiting for new visitors to arrive. As the film progresses, we slowly explore the emptiness of this space that these characters are trapped in, gaining a sense that this place may have once been a popular spot for tourists to visit and get away from it all. The actors deliver great performances throughout this film, building a strong relationship dynamic between the three core characters. We quickly get a sense that Chrissy might be a little bit promiscuous.
Once, when I was 16, I had this uncontrollable urge to want to do it for money. You know, like being a hooker.
There is a flirtatious dynamic between Marty and Chrissy, and a pretty strained one between Jenny and Chrissy. We are basically told that Marty and Chrissy have some sort of open relationship arrangement, which is sort of interesting to see in a film from the 80s, given that this concept has only recently gained a mainstream popularity. The way this film uses its lack of budget to its advantage is pretty incredible, shooting entire sequences within the soft glow of candle or lamplight, and allowing the darkness to creep in around our characters. There is some nice attention to detail paid throughout this film that most other low-budget productions would have paid no mind to. Things like having our characters deliver dialogue to one another in a yelling tone while sitting on snowmobiles. Likely they would have filmed these scenes with the snowmobiles turned off, so it's cool that they took into account that they were going to lay in the sound in post. We're slowly introduced to the antagonist of the film, which finds its basis by reaching into a form of Native American lore that I wish filmmakers would utilize more often. And I'm pretty sure it's spelled Wendigo, not Windigo. But that's no real matter. In this film, the look of the creature is kept extremely simple, using only minor makeup and prosthetics. Even though this choice was simple, it looks pretty good and is off-putting. The interesting thing here is that even though this film does feature a creature like this, technically it's not the antagonist. The real monsters are the ones who keep it. This gave the film elements of something like Texas Chainsaw, bringing a twisted family element into the narrative structure through this elderly lighthouse keeper type woman and her sons. This made me wonder how long they have been trapping wandering travelers here, killing them and feeding off of them to quell the hunger of the Wendigo. There is an element of this film that descends our characters into madness as the situation around them escalates, and they are slowly cut off from escape. The way Jenny and Marty begin to interact with one another by this point in the story is unlike anything that I've seen before, outside of Kubrick's masterpiece at least. In this maddened state, Marty becomes almost abusive, shoving and dismissing Jenny as he attempts to leave her behind to find refuge for himself. While this film doesn't deliver the most original or engaging story out there, I do think it attempted to explore some subject matters that no one else really had at the time, while crafting an atmosphere of dread and isolation that few other filmmakers were able to. It isn't easy to pull off a story like this when limited to only a few characters and a single location. I love the idea that this film subverts your expectations. It leads you to expect the antagonist of the film to be a supernatural monster or spirit, when in reality, the Wendigo itself is as much a prisoner as our characters, and the real monsters are those who look after it, keeping it locked away. And in a cool twist of fate, Jenny herself then becomes the very monster in which she is trying to escape, succumbing to the madness that is foreshadowed in her family early on in the film, and taking the place as the new Ghostkeeper. Hello friends, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you want to show your support for what we do here, please consider supporting ETF on Patreon. We don't expect much, but every little bit helps us grow and create more content for you all to enjoy. As always, don't forget to subscribe if you are not already, and I will catch you all next time. Thanks for watching.